Good morning. How's West High School this morning? You guys awake and bright eyed and bushy-tailed?
We're great.
Good. Well, welcome. We are pleased to have you guys join us today. We're going to do something a little different. We're going to take a different walk down our little tour question and answer session. I want to introduce Alex Sheskin. She is part of our HR team that is really focusing on new hires, people that are coming into Wesley, primarily nursing, but she has a very broad background in all HR aspects and has joined our team about a year and a half ago, Alex. Is that fair to say? 2 years ago. Oh gosh, we're that 6 months ago. But she is one of the primary people that nursing will interact with as they say they want to come on board with Wesley and become an employee. So Alex is very gifted in her HR skills and has a great PowerPoint ready for you, and she will take questions. We can use the chat feature if you want to send a question. We'll kind of converse that way as well. But we want to hit on all the buttons today because this is something that you will need to know as you seek employment in the healthcare field. Alex is great. I love her to pieces, and she's also a K-State grad, so she has an extra place, special place in my heart. So I'm going to mute myself so that we can get started. So thank you guys for joining, and please don't forget, there's an evaluation we will have you complete at the end, and if you give that to Mrs. Robinson, she will see that we get them. And I appreciate all of your honest feedback and your ideas. So Alex, I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Good morning. I am sharing my screen. Can you guys see it? I see a head nod from Hope.
Yes, we can. Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Perfect. Well, from Hope's very kind words, my name is Alex. I am a recruiter with Wesley Medical Center. I've been here for 2 years now. And in my capacity as a recruiter, I do focus very exclusively on hiring new students as they are transitioning to practice from nursing student to RN. So we developed this presentation last year whenever the pandemic kept us at home and we weren't able to go out and visit with students. We wanted the opportunity to help students virtually, from our desks at home. So we created this and then sort of adapted it for you guys. So hopefully you'll find some of the information useful and helpful, and feel free to interrupt me if you guys have questions in the meantime, okay? So a little bit of what we'll go over, we'll do some introductions to Wesley and to HCA. We'll talk about resume building. It's always a hot topic. We'll talk about interviewing and go pretty in depth into some specific details there. We'll talk about social media, how to kind of determine the culture of where you're looking to work as you enter the healthcare field, and then kind of what does a compensation package look like. So, and certainly, I have some questions from the Andover students that I'll stop and answer in the middle. And if you guys think of anything, feel free to stop me as well, okay? So these are our other team members. Liz is a recruiter for nurses and allied support at Wesley. She's been with the company for 7 years now, and 3 of them with recruitment. Consuelo in the middle is someone that you guys might actually meet if you decided to come on board as a patient care tech or as a patient sitter. She does our nursing support, our nurse extern roles. She and I actually started on the same day, just a little over 2 years ago. So, and then my name is Alex. I focus exclusively, as I said, on hiring students as they transition to practice. So we're really excited to have you guys, but that's just a little pictorial view of who we are if we ever pick up the phone and call you about a job. So, okay. So I want to go over a little bit about HCA. Who we are as a company. Wesley belongs to the HCA network. And this is our mission statement, and I'll come back and reference it. So I just wanted to make sure that we talked about it. Above all else, we are committed to the care and improvement of human life. We are in the medical field. We are here to care for not only patients, but their families, the people of our community, and each other as well. So I like that our mission statement is just very brief and succinct, but still means a lot. So we have over 185 hospitals across the U.S. We had over 28 million patient encounters each year. We've been named one of the world's most ethical companies for over 11 years. When I relocated to Wichita a couple years ago, that was one of the things that I was looking for, was a company that I felt like I would belong and was ethical, so that really stood out to me. We are a Fortune 500 company, which was really nice during the pandemic to have some of that financial resiliency. And we have over 90,000 nurses in our network, which is always important to call out. So we have the support of a really large organization. So Wesley, how does that impact Wichita? How does that impact our community? What does it look like here in Wichita? We are a level 1 trauma facility. And it just means that Wichita, because of where we're located, we're able to support other smaller communities that maybe don't have access to some of the same healthcare resources that we do. We've got a children's hospital. Our Wesley Woodlawn campus has nationally been recognized for patient satisfaction. We've got a surgery care center, and then a couple of freestanding EDs, one in Derby, one on the west side. We have over 3,000 employees. And Wesley is kind of known as the baby hospital. We deliver more babies than any other hospital in a 13-state region. And then over on the side, you'll see our accomplishments. If you ever drive past the hospital, you might see like banners and things like that, where we kind of shout from the rooftops the good things that we're doing in healthcare, and how proud we are of our A's from the Leapfrog Group, which is the National Hospital Rating Agency. So if you ever drive past, you might see some of those banners. Those are things that we strive for in our hospital, and we're really proud of. So just wanted to call that out. As a whole, HCA is a large organization. As I mentioned earlier, we have over 185 hospitals. And so you can see kind of in the middle where Kansas is at, we are a part of the Continental Division. So our hospitals in Kansas are part of the same division as our hospitals in Denver. So we work together with the hospitals over there on different initiatives and things like that. Those are our team members on a little bit of a bigger scale prior to the big overall overview of the company. So our reach is really far. And then I wanted to talk about HCA's culture, because again, that was something that really drew me to the company when I started working for them a few years ago. We provided over $234 million in uncompensated care in 2020. We invest in education. Whenever you go into healthcare, and specifically nursing, nursing is lifelong learning. So we want to make sure that we're investing in educational opportunities for you guys. Our benefits is something that's really important. It might not be something that you guys as high school students are thinking about now, but they are going to be very important as you look to your future. So I think that HCA provides a really robust benefits plan. It's one of the top 8% in the country. Specifically for healthcare, but then, as an overall, we provide some things that other companies don't, such as student loan assistance. Hope mentioned that I went to K-State, so that education was quite expensive. That's a program that anyone that carries student debt would be able to take advantage of. We also offer tuition reimbursement up to $5,250 annually. I think that Wichita is very unique because we have some very lovely colleges here that provide a great education at a fairly affordable price. So that $5,250 goes very far. We have a lot of nurses that come to us with their associates, and maybe they're going to do an RN to BSN bridge program. That would be an opportunity to take advantage of the tuition reimbursement program that we offer. So we also do the general benefits package, your medical, dental, vision, 401k, things that maybe you haven't really spent a lot of time learning about, but as you kind of grow into your career are things that you will start to look at more deeply. And then we've also got our Hope Fund, which I like to call out as well. The Hope Fund was something that was started several years ago as a way to support our colleagues that may have fallen on hard times. Last year, we donated more money to the Hope Fund, and we also gave out more assistance to employees that needed help. So it's a part of our culture that's very unique, and I like to just call it out because I think that it's important to work for an organization that where everyone contributes and takes care of their employees. And these are our lovely facilities here in Wichita. If you haven't driven past them, the first picture is our Hillside campus, and then Wesley Woodlawn is on the right there. So we are going to talk about job seeking and interviewing. So these are the main things that we are going to kind of touch on today. Hopefully it's like the bulk of what you guys are looking to learn about. We're going to talk about resumes. We're going to talk about your social media presence and how that can help you in your job search. We're going to talk specifically about interviewing. And then we're going to talk about how to connect and communicate with your recruiter throughout the process. And these tips and things like that, they should be applicable to you if you apply for a job anywhere, but they're a little specific to HCA. So, but hopefully you'll learn some good stuff no matter where you guys end up working. So this is our resume slide that we talk about specifically with nursing students. So someone asked for an example of a resume. This is our example, and we'll kind of talk about what makes this a good resume, you know, what's going to look like a bad resume and things like that. So the first thing that I want to call out is that you need to include your name, the city where you live, your email, and your phone number. It seems very elementary, like, oh yeah, of course you need those things on your resume, but I look at probably over 1,000 resumes every year, and I have seen them without names on them. I have seen them with incorrect phone numbers, things like that. So if your phone number is wrong, you're probably not going to get a phone call from a recruiter. So just double and triple check it, have someone else look at it, make sure that it's correct. And then the other really important thing that you're going to want to include is your education and what year you are graduating. So if you are planning to go to nursing school and you are applying for a nurse extern role, for example, you would want to include the year that you graduate from nursing school. That's important for every recruiter that's looking at your resume, just to know and plan for your career path throughout the hospital so they can have a conversation with you about it. We like you to include all of your work experience, including your non-clinical experience. And I want to kind of pause and talk about this because our facility has really taken a look at work experience as an indicator for your success with us and your time with us. We really look at your length of stay at a previous job. So if you are working 3 or 4 jobs and you guys are still pretty young, you know, coming in, if you've already had 3 jobs, we're kind of going, this person doesn't really have a very stable work history background. It's very expensive to bring someone in and train them. So If you have a history of bouncing around jobs, it's not something that's going to add value to your resume. But just make sure that you could kind of explain some of those. Any job hopping that you do, you just want to make sure that there's a solid reason why you left. So, okay. If you have any certifications, if you guys carry a CNA, BLS, things like that, those are important to include on your resume. We like to see any additional experience. I often get asked what makes my resume stand out. My hiring leaders, when they look at a resume, they will always look at any sort of like volunteer experience, or they'll go, oh, hey, this person's on the softball team at WSU or wherever. And they'll pick those things out first, because we want to see who you are as a person, not just as a nurse. So including any additional experience that you can speak to, it should be something that you can speak about if they ask you about it, is important. We took a survey of our recruiting team, and everyone said that exceeding 1 page on your resume is fine. As young individuals, you probably will only have a 1-page resume, which is great. That is my personal preference. I've had hiring leaders tell me that they stop reading after the first page. I've seen them really, really long. I've seen them really short. You know, you want one page, and you want to make the best use to fill up the white space on the page. Another tip I wanted to point out to you guys: when you are submitting a resume, you want to submit it as a PDF, because not everyone has the same version of Word as you, so it could end up looking like a jumbled mess on the recruiter's screen whenever they're pulling your resume from your application. And the reason that we use this specific format that I'm showing you guys is whenever you pull your information into an applicant tracking system, so as you're applying, this is going to be the best way to pull all of your information in and have it be correct. So that's just a little tip whenever you guys are applying. I know sometimes the application process can be stressful, but if your resume is formatted really well, it's going to make that process a little bit easier for you guys. Okay. Any specific questions you wanted me to pause and answer here about resumes?
We're good.
And if not, okay,
We're good at
perfect.
Wes.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so I don't know if you guys know this, but recruiters and hiring managers will look at your social media. So this can either help or hurt you. So we're going to talk about ways which that might be harmful to your search process, but also how you can take advantage of social media. So we're going to talk just a little bit about the do's and don'ts. As I mentioned, as part of our background process, our teams will take a look at your social media. So we just like to see things that, you know, sharing and posting kind and useful information online. You want to be able to join groups that are relevant to your job search. There are plenty of pages out there that you can follow that would be helpful to you. You can include family photos and things like that. We don't want you to be posting things that you wouldn't want, that wouldn't be, you know, very becoming. You don't want to post photos or posts that are bullying. We have rejected people for sharing information that is bullying online. So this is kind of just a little bit of do's and don'ts. You know, you want to use your common sense whenever you're posting things online, because again, once it's online, somebody is probably going to be able to find it. So even if you think you've deleted it. And then I want to talk about LinkedIn. As you guys enter college and start to think about how to look for a job, this is something that we really talked about during the pandemic, because again, you couldn't go into the hospital. We weren't having as many clinicals and things like that, so you couldn't make those connections in person. So the best way to do it is through LinkedIn. not every nurse is on LinkedIn, but every recruiter is on LinkedIn. So that is your best way to find someone that works for the hospital that would be able to send you a link to apply and keep in touch with. As recruiters, we post really useful information pertaining to job openings, presentations, events that we're hosting, things like that. So this is just something to kind of an overview for what you guys can do now to start your profile. You want to make your profile public, include Wichita as your location, include your contact information. Most recruiters will reach out to you on LinkedIn. They're not going to pick up the phone and call you, but it's still important to include. You can include your skills, and again, those are skills that you want to include that are a little more relevant to the industry, so that you want them to be relevant to healthcare, and make the list so that your most important skills are on top. A lot of people don't know this, but you can create a customized URL on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn will automatically generate one for you, and it'll have like all these numbers at the end of your name, but you can make it so that you can use the URL and you can copy and paste it into your resume, for example, or sometimes some applications have a spot for you to include your LinkedIn. So that would be another opportunity for you to plug your LinkedIn into your application. And again, it just looks a little bit nicer and cleaner, and like you've taken the time to kind of edit your profile and have it be a little bit more seamless and easy for you. Whenever you start, I think some people struggle with that little headline up at the top. So these are some examples of some good ones that we really like. For nursing students, I like whenever the graduation year is included. You can include what your current role is. So Anthony is currently a nursing student. He's going to graduate in spring of 2020. He's got his school listed, but then he's also a patient care assistant at a hospital. So he includes both of those things. And then Amanda includes that she's currently seeking job opportunities. So as these folks were graduating in May, we were looking at their profiles last February and March for potential job opportunities. So those are just some good examples of ways that you can make your headline look nice. And then you've also got, your work history, and you can tell a story. It can look a little different than it does on your resume. You can add your credentials, you can add your skills and things like that. I think that it's important to include achievements, things that you've accomplished at work as well, because that's going to make you stand out a little bit more than if you just copy and pasted the job description into your summary. I see it happen a lot where people are building their resumes or they're building their LinkedIn profiles, and they just copy and paste the job duties from the job description at their company. Recruiters, we see job descriptions every day, so we know that that's what you're doing. We want to see something a little bit more specific and relevant to how your skills matter, how you achieve things at work. So that's a really important thing to keep in mind as you develop your LinkedIn and your resume, okay? You can follow relevant influencers, relevant organizations in the healthcare industry. And you can share, once you start connecting with people, you can start sharing useful information. It's important to talk about the things that are going on in our community and share them with your classmates. So any questions on social media before we move on to interviewing? Okay, so we're going to talk about interviews, and I get a lot of the same kinds of questions, so hopefully we'll be able to kind of encompass some good skills for you guys here. So the first question that I got on this topic was, how long is the interview process? So our interviews start with a phone screen from the recruiter, which typically is going to be about 30 minutes. And then whenever you go into the hospital, let's say you're selected for an interview, when you go into the hospital, you'll probably meet with the hiring manager for about 30 minutes, and you'll meet with our peer panel. We include a peer panel as a part of our process. We take our employees' input into hiring decisions very seriously. So we include a peer panel as well. So you want to plan for at least an hour and then maybe like an additional 15 to 20 minutes to tour the unit at the end of your interview. So the process of interviewing can last for up to an hour. We do events where we do kind of like speed interviewing as well. So it's kind of like speed dating, and our managers do interviews in 20 minutes. So it can last, like I said, anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour, as long as our peer panel is able to be there and lend their support to our hiring leaders. So we want to talk about your story. Why do you want to work here? So some of the more common questions that you are going to be asked is, tell me about yourself, or why did you choose a career in healthcare, or tell me why you chose to become a nurse. So those are the types of questions that you can expect, your hiring leader to kick off with, your recruiter. I like to ask those questions. So some tips for kind of answering those particular types of questions is to make it specific to yourself and make sure that you have a story. So a lot of students will tell me, I'll say, what made you decide to become a nurse? And they might tell me, oh, I've just always really enjoyed helping people. And my friends told me that I would make a really good nurse, or my family told me I would make a really good nurse. And as I did some volunteer time at the hospital, I really enjoyed it. And that's why I decided to come into healthcare. And then I might get a little more specific. I might say, well, tell me about a time when you were on a clinical rotation and your choices had been affirmed. And then you can talk about a more specific story where you felt like you had really made the right career path and you had something happen that really affirmed your decision of why you were interested in nursing and healthcare. So because we're focused on the healthcare industry and nursing, those are the types of questions that we're going to get. But I know you guys might be interviewing for other types of roles, and so you might get, a question that says, tell me about yourself. So again, you're going to want to be specific. You're going to want to tell who you are now and the skills that you think you have relevant to the position that you're applying for. So you would say, oh, I'm a recent high school graduate. I recently obtained my CNA license. I am looking to start my career with Wesley because I would like to apply to nursing school and start work as a nurse. So that's kind of a little bit of a brief way, and you can tailor it to yourself. And you can kind of say why you were looking to go into healthcare. So you want it to be your story that you're telling. Okay. So as a company, we focus on behavior-based questions. So this question you will know because it will sound like, tell me about a time when you encountered a difficult coworker. What was the situation and how did you answer it? So you can Google how to answer behavior-based questions, but we use the STAR method. And what that means is that whenever you answer, you should be talking about a specific situation. You should talk about the tasks and actions that you took, and then what was the resolution. And as an added bonus, you can also include something that you learned from the situation. So as you are preparing for interviews, we focus on those key things. We're looking at patient safety, we're looking at communication, we're looking at teamwork in the workplace. So you kind of have a little bit of an understanding of what we're looking for is a specific STAR method to answer. And you really want to make sure that you don't forget the R at the end, because that's kind of going to help wrap up your story. So it's easy to kind of determine those types of questions because they will always start almost exactly the same. We'll say, tell me about a time when. So as you're preparing for interviews, I personally like to write things down. That way I know what I want to communicate and what I want the interviewer to know about me before I leave. And I want to have some specific examples that I can pull out of my back pocket. The reason that we focus on behavior-based interviews is because we think that past performance is an indicator of future performance. So just kind of a couple things to keep in mind as you are interviewing. You want to be able to talk about the situations that you had in previous workplaces, how you've learned from them, and how they can be applied. So you can pull information from your job as a waitress. Customer service is very important to us as well. So your skills there are still transferable. You want to focus on your more transferable skills into the hospital. Okay. Somebody asked if there was one particular skill or trait that was more important. There is not. Again, we focus on who you are as a person, not just who you are as a nurse. So things like your clinical understanding can be taught, but we want to know who you are as a person and if that's going to be a fit for our hospital and for our unit. So we want you to be genuine. That's what leaders are actually looking for is a genuine response. A couple of good questions that I got were about fidgeting and posture and what do those things tell us. I am a more skilled interviewer, I would say. I've been doing this for 9 years, 10 years at this point, so I'm very comfortable interviewing other people. And it's easy to recognize whenever someone might be nervous, and it's okay to call it out, I think. As you interview, if you are anxious, it's totally fine. I've seen people very, very sweaty and they still get job offers. So it's not really something that I would worry about. It's totally fine to say, oh my gosh, I'm really nervous. I haven't done a lot of interviews yet. Just call it out because you're going to make yourself more comfortable and you're probably going to make your interviewer more comfortable because maybe the interviewers don't have the same number of years of experience in interviewing that I do. So they might also be nervous. It's totally fine. The one thing I did want to talk about is posture and facial expressions, things like that. Because of COVID, a lot of us are wearing masks when we're going into interviews, so you'll need to be very clear and enunciate when you speak, and you'll want to really demonstrate your interest by sitting up, leaning forward. You don't want to be like slumped in your chair or sitting back, crossing your legs like away from the interviewers or anything like that. You want your body language to demonstrate that you're interested because, again, we're missing most of your face in a lot of cases. So it's important to make sure that your body language is demonstrating some interest in the position. People that are really closed off, they're going to be less likely to get someone than someone that comes out and they're really sweaty and nervous, but because they're so excited about the interview, they're more likely to get an offer. And then one of the last things that I wanted to talk about is what should I wear? We send out instructions specific to your interview prior to going into the hospital. And a couple of things that we call out is to not wear jeans. And we also call out to not wear open-toed shoes. So you do need to wear closed-toed shoes when you come into the facility. You do need to dress, business casual or business professional. If you don't have a jacket, like a suit jacket, I think that that's fine. You can wear something nice on top and slacks. I think that that's totally fine. For men and women, we do have some individuals that come to the interview in scrubs. If you tell your recruiter ahead of time, they might suggest a different time for you to come and interview, just so that you have the opportunity to kind of put your best foot forward. And you can, a good rule of thumb that we have is if you have to ask someone, is this appropriate for an interview? It probably is not appropriate for an interview. And then another thing I wanted to call out is I've seen, unfortunately, I've seen people fall wearing heels. So if you are not very comfortable walking in heels, I would suggest leaving them at home or wearing something a little shorter. The halls of the hospital are very slick, so you just want to be careful when you think about your footwear. You want it to be practical. The hospital is big, so walking through there, you're going to be nervous and things like that. So just make sure that you're going to be comfortable in whatever you choose to wear. Okay, and then I want to talk about how to prepare for a phone interview. In some cases, some companies are doing virtual interviews. These things have become kind of a little bit more of a new normal as you start your search and things like that. Sometimes we are not able to provide in-person experiences. We have been fortunate enough to do that in the last couple of months, but last year we weren't able to. So I just want to kind of talk about this briefly because you're going to prepare in all the same ways we just talked about previously, but it's going to be a virtual experience, kind of like we're having now. So you want to make sure that you are sitting in a quiet room, that you don't have distractions. I turned my email notifications off in order to talk to you guys. So you want to make sure that the application works on your device ahead of time. We're using WebEx for this. I've used WebEx regularly. So you want to make sure that the camera can see your face clearly. You want to make sure that everyone can hear you. You want to make sure that your internet works. I called it out before the presentation that, hey, what if my internet drops off? So we had a backup plan for you guys just in case. You want to ask about what's plan B, what happens if something's not working. So these are just kind of a couple of things to think about if you guys are planning for any sort of virtual interviews. Like I said, we've been really fortunate the last couple of weeks to be able to have candidates come into the hospital for their experience. So. And then I want to talk about how to evaluate the culture and fit of the company or the unit that you are interviewing with. Whenever you enter into a working relationship, it's a two-way street, so it's something that should be a fit for you as well. And you want to make sure that the relationship is symbiotic, right? You want to make sure that it's something that's going to be a match for you if you're spending a lot of time at work. So some options are to research the hospital. You can do that on social media. Wesley has a YouTube channel, so you can see some of the different units talk about different things that are important to them on YouTube. You can go on Facebook. You can go on LinkedIn, as we talked about earlier, for more information. A lot of times, whenever people are planning to relocate to Wichita and I do a phone screen with them, I'll ask them why they're interested in Wesley. And I can always tell when somebody has done their research if they talk about our eye care values or things like that. It's important to kind of have a little bit of a basis of the hospital before you start to speak to anyone from there, because you don't want to be caught out like you don't know what's going on. So another way you can evaluate the culture and fit as you go through your clinical rotations. If you didn't get a clinical rotation on a unit that you're interested in working on, but one of your friends did, you can ask them about that experience. You can ask employees why they like to work there. And then I do have some questions about that you can ask during the interview process on the next slide. So the questions are going to be super useful for you guys, I think. I definitely recommend writing them down to keep in your back pocket for the future. And then I want to talk about, before you even start your job search, creating a list of preferences and benefits that are important to you as you begin work. So if that is things like tuition reimbursement and student loan assistance, which I think is very important for nurses, what are the things that are important to you? Because those things are job satisfiers. Not every day is a good day at work. So you want to think about your overall job satisfiers. Are you looking for a unit that goes out for pizza once a month, or are you looking for a unit that, or a company that provides a lot of resources in terms of adoption benefits, things like that. Like what are the things that are important to you? Have a list and have those things in mind so you can evaluate whether or not it's going to be a good fit for you. And then these are the questions that I always recommend asking, and I want to talk about them, a few of them like more specifically, so that you can kind of listen for some key things whenever you're asking these questions. And you can bring these to the unit, to any of your interviews through the process. And I think that these questions are going to add a lot more value to your job search rather than, what are my hours and things like that. Those are important to know. You should know those before you go in for your interview, but these are going to give you a better feeling for the culture of the unit that you're coming into. So I'm going to talk about what made you decide to work for HCA. As I mentioned earlier, I chose this organization because it's a large organization. It's got the financial support and the movement to kind of move around. It feels like a very safe place to work for me. I liked that it was named one of the world's most ethical companies. Those things were important to me in my job search. But that answer is different than when you ask somebody what gets you excited about coming to work. I like recruiting because I like connecting people to roles that I think are going to benefit them and their future, that they're excited about. I like connecting with students every day. So whenever you ask those two questions, you're asking two different things. So make sure you know which answer you're looking for whenever you are asking those questions. And that's just kind of a different way to ask something that on the surface it looks the same, but it's actually very different. How do you communicate to your team? That's important as well. I think it's a little more specific because communication, again, is so important in the workplace. So just kind of getting a feel for how the leader likes to work with their team. Do they do emails every Friday? Do they have team meetings? Like what does the rhythm look like as far as their communication style? It's something that's a specific facet of their management style that you can ask about, and I think is really important to call out. And then especially for new nurses coming into the unit, I always encourage them to ask about career development opportunities. What are the certifications that are recommended when you come into that unit? What does the career path look like if you start on that unit? Those are things that are important to ask and important to kind of think about. Any questions on the types of questions to ask? Okay, move on. I pulled this from our code of conduct, which is like 50 pages. It's super long, but this is, again, something that I wanted to call out because it's really important to us. It's got our mission and our values right on the front. So above all else, we are committed to the care and improvement of human life. And in pursuit of our mission, we believe the following. So this is something that I wanted to call out specifically because somebody asked a question that said, what would make you stop considering someone during the application process? And someone that we feel does not live up to the values of our code of conduct would fit that, that criteria, I suppose. We do reference checks, we do drug screens, we do background checks. Failure of any of those things is going to disqualify you from the role. So I call it misrepresentation of yourself. Any dishonesty on your part throughout the application process, whether that's a fib to the recruiter or the hiring manager, or any sort of falsification on your application, is something that is going to disqualify you. We are asking you to come in and take care of patients and folks that are at very vulnerable points in their lives. So we want to make sure that you're living up to the values and the standards that we have set for everyone that comes through our doors, not just our patient caregivers, but our support staff as well. So I wanted to just kind of call this out, that we do have a code of conduct. We take it very seriously, starting from the interview and application process. So hopefully that answers some of those questions about reference checks and things like that. We are looking to make sure that you are coming to work in healthcare for the right reasons, and that you are, again, living up to our values to care for our patients and our community. Okay, so if you do get an offer, I wanted to kind of talk about what that looks like for you guys. I think we've talked about, being honest and transparent with your recruiter and your hiring leaders. It's very important. About any specific timelines that you have, if you can't start working right away, if you need to give a 30 days notice at your previous job, things like that you want to kind of discuss. Make sure that you ask the recruiter those questions. And then you want to consider the whole package whenever you are juggling offers. Maybe you have 2 different offers, so you want to kind of consider, does this company provide benefits for education for me? Does this company provide shift differentials? What does that look like? Benefits do not cost the same at every company, so if you can get a copy of what it's going to cost you, that's going to help you kind of consider the whole process and help you kind of manage those competing offers. So it's just something to kind of keep in mind, the whole compensation package. And then a lot of times we get questions about negotiations. One of the things that I think HCA and Wesley does that is really great is we evaluate our market to make sure that we are being fair in our compensation practices with you guys, but we're also very consistent. And we also look at the individuals that are working on the unit currently. So if you guys are all working on my unit and you've been there for a few years, and then I hire Scott in and he doesn't have any years of experience, I'm going to bring him in at the entry-level wage so that he's not coming in at a higher rate than somebody that's already our employee. So we do a good job of making sure we take care of our employees in that way. So when it comes to negotiation, we do have like I said, a wage evaluation that we have already done. So there's maybe not a ton of wiggle room, but we look at your years of experience and we look at who's working on the unit to make sure that we're being fair to everyone. Okay. And then because I know you guys might be looking forward to going to nursing school and transitioning to practice, I did want to call out our residency and talk a little bit about what that looks like, how we help you move into the new role and transition from classroom to RN. So we provide structured material and help develop your patient care skills and help you connect to the nursing profession in a couple of different ways. That is the goals of the nurse residency. I mean, these 3 things on here are the goals of our residency program that is put together. I'm kind of the first step in that. I help recruit for the residency, and then Hope's team helps you with your clinical education. So that looks a little bit like this. We have an orientation process that is anywhere from 10 to 20 weeks. So the shorter orientations is going to be more for our medical surgical departments, and then the longer orientations are going to be more for our specialties and our OR departments. So we do a specialized training apprenticeship for RNs is what the STAR RN orientation stands for. And as I mentioned, Wesley is a part of HCA, and HCA is a large organization, and we take the feedback from our previous from our current employees and previous employees very seriously. So this program was really birthed out of a need for an orientation that really supported new grads as they were coming onto the unit. So that's where the program came from, which I think is really cool. It's employee driven, not driven by executives. So we do provide didactic simulation and skills training And preceptorship, of course, is going to be a part of your orientation. So that is kind of the first part of residency. And then the last 9 months is going to be focused on professional development to make sure that you're feeling comfortable, confident, that you have access to the resources that you need, to make sure that you don't just throw away your education to go be a Walmart greeter. We want you guys to feel comfortable and confident. We want you to be able to have crucial conversations. We want you to be able to connect to the nursing profession. We want you to have some work-life balance. Those things are important. So we do those formal check-ins with you guys for your first year, which I think is really important. And then I'm going to talk about the application process and kind of what that looks like. You can go to work@wesley.com and you can find any of our positions that are available. If they are open, you can email the recruiter. In most cases, the recruiter's email is going to be directly into the job posting. So you can apply and then email the recruiter that you're very excited about an opportunity with Wesley. Whenever you do, I'll go over some tips for the application because we do get a lot of applications to review. So I'll kind of go over some like application tips and things like that. But when you go through the interview process, you're going to want to keep an eye on your email. You might get a request via your email to do an interview with the recruiter. Sometimes we just pick up the phone and call you. I make so many phone calls that occasionally it looks like I'm a scammer because I do pick the phone up and call and talk to a lot of students, but I'll always leave a message. We're very comfortable and tech savvy, all of the recruiters. So we might send you a text message and say, hey, I'm available tomorrow at 3. Can you be available for a phone call? And then after we do a phone screen, if you're a fit for the department, we will schedule you for an interview on site with the unit, and those units, as I mentioned, will be able to do an interview with the hiring manager and the peer panel on the same day. We do take feedback from our employees very seriously, so we want to include them as a part of the process. And then again, you're going to want to dress business professional. You're going to want to have those questions prepared and ready, and you're going to want to bring extra copies of your resume. We send them electronically, but you should still always be prepared with extra copies. Some people, they just like to have that physical resume in front of them to look at because they might notice something on it that they didn't notice on the screen. So it's important to bring your resume to any interview that you do, okay? So the application process, we review them in the order that they are fully completed. That does include a behavioral assessment. You want to include a resume, a cover letter if applicable. We do extend offers, usually within 24 hours. If for some reason there's going to be a longer delay, we'll let you know. In some cases, managers might have several more interviews that they're still doing. So we'll always try to do our best to make sure that we let you know, hey, our last interview is scheduled for next Wednesday, and then the hiring leader should be making their decision by Friday. So just make sure that you have a conversation and ask the recruiter when they should be making their decision. Always check with your recruiter if you haven't received an update. And applications, they are competitive. I did have a few questions that kind of were pertaining to applications and how many we looked at and things like that. So because I have access to my own applications and things like that, and I know how many new grad nurses I've hired, I'm just going to stick to my statistics and not talk as much about, what Liz and Consuelo might be doing. But I did look, and I have reviewed 160 applications for this summer. We currently have 80 offers that have been accepted for this summer so far. And then in the first quarter, we hired 65 new nurses. So hopefully that gives you a better idea of how many nurses we're hiring and things like that. Consuelo, who I mentioned as our nurse extern and our nursing support role, She told me yesterday that she had 200 candidates to review because some of the entry-level positions are a little bit more competitive. So again, you're going to want to make sure that your work history is really strong whenever you're applying to those positions, and that you have skills that are fully transferable. So you want to make sure, again, also that your application is fully completed. If you submit an application and you don't finish it within a couple days, it's probably not going to get considered. Okay. You want to include your certifications. You want to have the correct contact information. Again, if I call a phone number and it's the wrong person, I probably won't try again unless I look and see that I've made a mistake in dialing. So make sure that your phone number is correct on your applications and on your resume. And then something that's really important that I want to call out is you want to make sure that you are qualified for the role that you are applying for. So you want to make sure you meet the minimum qualifications. We do require you to have a high school diploma and be 18 for our positions. So anything that is a patient care tech or a patient sitter role, we want you to be 18 and to have a high school diploma. Those are two of the minimum qualifications. So just make sure as you apply that you are looking to make sure that you meet that criteria. Any other types of certifications that you have that you might need for something specialized, let's say a phlebotomist, you want to make sure that you have those qualifications. And then I want to talk about, I feel like I've hit on it a couple times, but I know because it is so competitive, you want to be able to articulate why you left a company if you are not currently working. So, for example, whenever I started working at Wesley, I was not employed, so I had taken some time off because I'd relocated here with my husband's job. So it took me away from my former job, and then I didn't start working right away because I was on crutches for 4 months. So in the healthcare industry, they were very, very understanding of that. But yeah, you just want to make sure that you can kind of call out those things and articulate them well and honestly, because we're going to verify all of the information that you provide to us. Okay. So how do I get ahead of the game? Do you have a CNA license? Do you have any sort of certification that's going to put you ahead? Hospital opportunities, if you don't have a CNA, would be as a patient sitter. You want to get your foot in the door and build relationships. We are hopefully going to be bringing back our volunteer program. But again, I think I've called it out a couple times. You've got to be 18. You've got to have your graduation behind you and be able to pass your background check, okay, and drug screen. And then for those of you that are considering nursing, we do offer a nurse externship as well. You have to complete your first semester of nursing school to qualify, but this is going to be an opportunity for you to meet some nurses, shadow them, work with them, work on a unit that maybe could be the career for you. Any time that you spend with Wesley is going to count towards your tenure with the company, and that is something that's going to be super important for you as your career progresses. Okay. And that is all the questions I have. That is my email, so feel free to send me a copy of a resume. As I said, I look at a lot of them, so if you had questions, definitely feel free to give me a shout. Hope or Scott, did I miss anything?
I think you've done a wonderful job, but if there are questions, we sure want to entertain them right now. If you guys want to submit some either through the chat or if you guys want to ask it through your instructors, by all means, please do.
Right now, I don't have any questions, but I think you have covered the most amazing information that it will take us a while. We will be going back through a lot of what you've said and talk about how this is applicable to what my students are doing and what they will be doing in the very near future. So I cannot tell you how much we appreciate. Ty, I just had one of my students say they explained everything perfectly. So he could not have said it better for my whole group. So I really appreciate the time and effort that you put into this presentation.
Yeah, thank you guys for your time this morning.
I just did a question check here and everybody seems good too. So thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it.
Alex, you did a wonderful job. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Hope. Yeah. You guys have a good rest of your day.
All righty. Thanks, guys. We will be in contact for a May presentation. Again,
Okay.
fill out your evaluations and make sure your instructor gets them so we can review them. And we do share them amongst this team so that everybody has the same feedback. So I appreciate your time today, and we'll be setting something up for May. And for those of you who will have in class, great. If those of you online, great. We will look forward to meeting up with you one more time before school ends this year.
Hope you'll be sending those evaluations.
Yes, we will have it. Either Scott or I will send that eval form.
Thank you so much.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.